Hello, everybody. I'm Wynn.E, and I'm here with my producer, Ange, for a fun little dual interview.
Ooh, awesome. What's up, everyone? I'm excited to be here.
So, Ange helped me make four out of the six songs that was on the EP for Escape the First Chapter. And I actually have a few questions for you, and then Ange is going
Ooh.
to be asking me some questions. The first question I have for you is from your perspective on the production end. Which beat was, it's a two-part question. Which beat was the most fun to work on? And then which beat did you struggle with the most?
Hmm. It's funny because I think it's the same beat. Um, Actually, well, I'd say anger was also really fun to work on, but I'm gonna say regret. Because I was
Meow.
so nervous to tell you to send that one to you.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'd never really made a beat like that. So yeah, I'd say most challenging was probably regret, even though it was kind of simple in nature. I think because it was so simple, I was worried it wasn't enough. Um, Anger was also the maybe the most fun, because I never made a beat like that, but it was so cool to like layer the guitars and do these sort of like natural like pop rock drums. Um, so yeah, it's all like it's almost a dual answer there, but like both of them are it's really Regret, I think, is the standout track for me now. I listen to Regret now. So that's the track that I'm the most excited to for it to come out.
You just answered kind of the second question as like from a listener's standpoint, which do you think is the song that everybody's going to gravitate to?
That's hard. That's really hard because so Selfish is, I think, the most pop sounding, maybe the most widespread in terms of audience.
Hmm.
Like I could hear that song on the radio. I could even hear Regret on the radio as well, to be fair. Um, but I have like a really soft spot for Escape. So that one is stuck, it's stuck in my head. But after we made it, it got stuck in my head for like 2 months. So I also think that one has a really nice vibe. It has such a nice melody. Um, it could definitely be a fan favorite, but I think it's almost a hidden gem in a way. Like, for people that don't go through and listen to the whole EP, they just listen to the first few songs. Selfish or Regret is gonna be the most popular, widespread, in my opinion. Um, but I do think Escape is like the hidden gem on the project.
Hidden Gem is also the one that is the self-produced track, so I find that really interesting. Um, because Escape's going to be the second self-produced song that I've ever released. So that's going to be fun. Last but not least, what was it like working on a project of this magnitude earlier in your production career? Because I know that we found each other when you were still kind of small. Like you had maybe 1,000 followers, I think,
Yeah.
when we found each other.
Yeah. Um, I think this was actually the first EP slash album that I made, um, or that I produced, sorry. But you almost made it easy because you had a lot of the tracks, you had visions already for the tracks. None of it was us going into it blind. Um, I also think, we have really good creative chemistry. It was easy for us to work together. So I just got kind of lucky that the first EP that I produced was with you. Um, yeah, because there's definitely, I think you're also like very good at following through. Um, I've had artists start albums and never finish them. So I think it was yeah, it was just I got lucky that you were a great person to work with. We hit it off really well. We hit it off really quickly. Um, and but the best part for me was just how fast a lot of it happened. Like there was this span of I think 3 months where we just made a song every single month, or you would record while we were mixing and mastering, and then we would have the next one like ready right away. And it was a really good flow that we got into. So yeah, I just think that we got lucky with the creative chemistry that we have, um, just like naturally, and then we built on that by making 6 awesome songs.
And I really agree. I think we click really, really well. And it comes back to that idea of we're both willing to take the criticism. So it's like
Yeah.
when I listened to something, I was like, I don't know what it is, but I can hear this and it's kind of bothering me. Can we fix it? Or it's like I had this really cool idea, but I don't know if it'll work. Can we at least try it first? And it was just really fun to be able to work with somebody. Also, it's great to work with people of different viewpoints than you. And so it's definitely, it feels less of a like I'm in charge kind of atmosphere and more of it was a collaborative effort to create something that is presentable in the artist mindset.
Yeah. No, definitely.
My
Um,
son is screaming at me, my four-legged son.
yeah, no, no worries. Yeah, yeah, I definitely would agree with that. And I think what you said about feedback and just like being able to take criticism, like I remember even being so nervous to send you regret, and then you were like, "Why are you nervous? Like, what's the worst thing that could happen, you know? Even if you didn't like it, which isn't what happened, but even if you didn't like it, I would just go back to the drawing board, and there's sort of nothing wrong with that. So yeah, I definitely would agree with that. Just being able to give each other, um, good feedback and being open to taking feedback is just such a big part of any kind of creative collaboration. So yeah.
I totally agree. And so with that, I mean, I had a really short amount of questions because since you're already behind the scenes with these songs, it's interesting and it almost feels like I'm asking redundant questions because I'm trying to get not only from the behind the scenes points of view, but from people who have, never heard it or people who have only heard it from the listening standpoint. And so it's really interesting to get so many different perspectives on stuff that you make when when you're ready to take that kind of
Yeah.
perception.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's a great point, just like when you're ready. Um, because it takes actually you could hit a point when you're making something sort of in the production phase where you do need feedback because maybe you're stuck on something.
Right.
But a lot of the time, I personally like to have stuff completely finished, and just to be at peace with it myself before I want anyone else to hear it. So yeah, I definitely could relate to that. Um, cool. I think then I have quite a few questions to ask you, but I'm excited,
Let's
just to get more of
go.
your perspective. Yeah. Um, so just to start it off, what inspired the songs on this EP?
Um, that's actually a really fun question. So this EP came out of it was about 2016 and the songs on this album kind of got birthed from, believe it or not, from the song Anger. Cast a Spell was not originally part of the story, that was added on later. But for the EP, Anger is the oldest child, and so Anger is also the maddest child. Um, and I decided because this song was initially named Anger, I named it Anger as a working title because I was processing something that really made me mad. And from there, I was like, it would be really cool to write songs that have, in literary terms, what is known as the single effect. So, the single effect is, in literary terms, if you know of Edgar Allan Poe, he is a king at doing this, which is everything that you craft in the story you're telling leads to the same effect. And in Edgar Allan Poe's case, it is being creepy. It is scaring you. It is the psychological horror. So, what I decided to do was I wanted to make a group of songs that within their own realm was a single effect for the feeling or situation they were in.
Hmm. And
And so that's why when I wrote Anger, I imagined it to be a pop rock song, really punky with grungy sounding vocals and a bratty tone and sounding really sassy. With Cast a Spell, this was just kind of this is just what happened, but it sounded like a carousel. It sounded like you were stuck inside a loop. And then with Selfish, it's like it's hope, it's longing, it's wanting to be better by replicating yourself in a way that feels ameliorated, that feels like a better version of yourself.
Mm. And so, like, when did you make that decision? Was it right when you made Anger?
No, it was about a year, 1 to 2 years after I created Anger, and I really decided, after making some friends with the music kids at my university, that I really wanted to write songs and create my own music, but I wasn't much of an instrumentalist, so I befriended the music kids to try to rush that forward. Never got really much anywhere. But it was more of when I started talking to the music kids and rekindling that love for music that I decided, let's create a project out of this instead of just using it and keeping it in my basement. Let me take it out of the basement and let it see some light.
Yeah. No, I love that. So, community is such a big like part, I think, of music as well. Just having that support system and in what can be such a lonely process. Um, in terms of like the process, like what is your typical, or for this project anyway, what was your typical songwriting process like?
So at the beginning of the project, it was very much I want to pick it. It was either I want to pick an emotion to write about, or it was I wrote about something and I was feeling it super intensely. And so then I would write it, not think about what I'm writing, just get everything out on the page like a first draft of an essay. And then the next day I would go back and read it. And then in my phone notes, where I usually write most of my stuff, I would t retitle it from just the date to farce number, meaning the order in which I wrote it, and then pick one of the letters of farce and name it after that.
Okay.
So I would reread it and be like, huh, this song is really full of whatever. And so, like, full of sadness. And so I was like, oh, this song is really kind of sad. Okay, so your farce number three, sadness,
Yeah.
and everything like that. So I think I have like two F's, three S's, two E's, and like a couple more that are in my phone.
It's like a game of Scrabble.
Yes. Um, I am a word nut, so I definitely love word games, crosswords, cryptic cues, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So kind of going a little deeper into like, I guess each song's like writing process. Was there a particular song that was the hardest to write?
Believe it or not, it's a toss up, but hardest is actually regret. Regret was the hardest to finalize. And what I mean by that is regret is the one that has had the most revisions out of all of these little children. There's two different versions in my Microsoft Word document that is called Lyrics and Poetry. Not even kidding. And this thing is like 400 pages long. Um, each page is about one song or one poem. And so I have two different versions there. I have two versions of it on my phone, two versions of it in Google, one of which is the final version. So, and it ended up actually becoming a mashup of two of those six versions as the finalized piece of it.
Okay.
And I think that was the hardest part is finding a beat that resembled what I wanted. How was I supposed to sing to it? What was I trying to portray with this feeling that I've given it?
Mhm.
And how do I portray it? And so when people listen to Regret, there's a big part that sounds like a real tone shift. And it's that like epiphany of what if I can have regrets but still move forward?
Hmm. It's like two things that can be two opposites that can both be true. Yeah.
Yes.
So what I mean to dive a little deeper there, because I'm kind of really curious. Like, was it the hook? Was it a verse? Like, what was the specific part of the song that kept getting revised?
It was the verses and the bridge. The only thing that I never really touched after I created it was the hook or like the chorus of it
Yeah.
because of the fact that it I had gotten inspired after coming up with the idea of farce that I got into a fight with one of my friends. We've made up now, so this is all like this retelling is null and void.
Yeah.
But um I got in a fight with a couple of different friends and I was like, you're acting like a cold asshole. And so we had gotten into a lot of it was the very, very start of the empty chorus era of music where you would have like one verse, like a lyric that would play throughout the chorus, and then the music would fill the rest of it.
Yes.
So I was like, I wonder what it would be like to write an empty chorus like song that also expresses this, that fits around this particular phrase that has been stuck in my head as a result of being angry and hurt.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah. So was there, I guess maybe it's more about regret, but was there any moment, I guess, throughout the whole EP where a song just took a completely different turn than what you thought?
Escape.
Okay. Yeah.
Escape took a completely left turn. So I think you remember this part, but I remember having so much trouble with the bridge.
Oh
I
yeah,
had
I remember
no
this.
idea what I wanted to. So I had written Escape like a couple years ago with it, and like I was messing around with the beat, but I hadn't completed it. And then about 2 years ago, I finished the beat and I didn't finish the lyrics. So then I wrote the lyrics and I wrote the chorus. I wrote the chorus, I wrote the verses, I remembered most of it. I couldn't remember how I wrote the freaking bridge. I didn't remember what I did because back when I was writing it, I was the dum dum who thought I would just remember everything, so I don't need to record it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've learned not to do that anymore. But so because I couldn't remember what I did, I literally took the entire bridge lyrics, erased it, and started over. And I just, and I was like, okay, so what do I do now? I looked at the chorus and I was like, okay, so I'm talking about like space-like stuff. Let's make a space rap.
Yeah.
And that's how that happened.
Nice. Yeah, I mean it's almost like a happy accident.
Yes.
Um, yeah.
But I think honestly the song is better for it. It's a part of the coverist community version of me that gets to be thrown into the artist version of me now, which is something that I don't do often, which is rap-like sounding, rap-like verses. So
Hmm.
it's really fun. And like I said, I think the song is better for it because it needed something different in comparison to how the rest of it is designed.
I think it also goes really seamlessly with the other songs because of it. Um, because if you think about, I guess Regret has a bit of the
It has that duality change up in it.
yeah, sort of that contrast. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm going
Yes.
for. And then same thing with Forgotten. You've got a bit of the spoken word, so then it fits better with the whole project having that part in the bridge. Um, so in terms of the whole project, is there one lyric that you're the most proud of and why?
Well, that's a hard one.
Yeah, I figured that would be a
That
hard
is
one.
that is definitely a hard one. Um, One lyric that,
Could also be a melody.
yeah.
I don't know if that makes it harder.
Um, hmm. I think I have to pull from one of our already released babies, which is I can read the subtext in your eyes. And it pulls from my theater background where they teach you about subtext. Fun fact, people don't understand this. Subtext is also inflection. So in anger, the very second line is of the verse is I can read the subtext in your eyes. And I was really, really mad at this person. So I decided to be very figurative with how I wrote to try to create imagery that would confuse them. So that way they would have to be like, is this about me? I don't know if this is about me.
Mm. So you were
Be
already thinking about, sorry, like the presentation when you were writing the lyrics. Yeah. Okay, cool.
yeah. And so it's like, I wanted to use something that I felt was really close to me that only my close friends would have been able to pull apart if they had heard the song.
Yeah. Nice. And like I guess part of I guess why you say that is like the most you're most proud of is because it's almost hidden. Like we talked about like the hidden gem on the project. It's almost like you said, like only your closest friends would really understand why that
Yeah, it's
why that lyric makes so much sense.
all of like my literary, like the friends who know that I create stuff, that I create not only like stories, but I literally create worlds. I do things like D&D and all of these like really nerdy stuff. Only the people who really see that nerdy side of me will understand what I mean by that.
Hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I've already explained it, but it was kind of the point of like when I gave that lyric, that was the lyric I wanted people to hold on to
Mm.
because it was so weird. It felt more creative than the rest of the song itself.
Hmm. It's almost like the most authentic in a sense, the most you. Yeah. So in terms of the sound of the EP, like if you were to describe the sound of this in just 3 words, what would those words be?
Cosmic emotional landscape.
Mm. That sort of dives into what you just said, which is like the that you
Yeah,
created this world. Yeah.
yeah. And it goes back to the whole single effect thing.
Hmm.
There's only one so technically, I guess two songs on the album that are not actually considered emotions, which is Cast a Spell and Escape. But if you think about it, escape elicits emotions. And so I left that one up to interpretation
Mm.
on purpose. I left that one up to interpretation because Cast a Spell, when you listen to it, it's dizzying, you get stuck, and it's a very repetitive melody on purpose. But Escape is different. It has some elements from the other songs, but it has no particular, I guess, goal in comparison because it's up to you as to what emotion you pick out of it. So Escape is the pick your own adventure out of the six.
Yeah. That sort of ties into the next question, which is how do you hope listeners connect with these songs?
Um, I try not to always be too specific. So it's like it's just specific enough to make you think about something, but like I'm not going to say, "Oh, the corner store on Second Street," because I feel like that's too specific. So I
Hmm.
try to pick something or I try to paint an image that is not only relatable, but has it's just enough to give you that foundation, but enough of you to put yourself into it instead of imagining that it's just me who's singing it.
I think that even ties into um sort of what you said before, but even just the idea of escape. Like the reason that people escape into music is because they can picture themselves in a different world. Um, so yeah, it almost goes with like the whole theme of the project. And so I guess last question, just to wrap it up, is after going through this whole process, making the music, but even just making sort of this content, the world that you've created, if you could go back and tell yourself something at the very start of this process, what would it be?
So as like as the start of us working together and finalizing the EP, or as the
Um,
start of me creating the idea of the EP.
the start of you creating the idea and even thinking you can make an EP.
Um, support comes to where support will come to you, but not where you expect it.
Okay. What do you mean by the not where you expect it? if that's okay to ask.
Um, no, it's fine. People will probably get mad that I say this, but sometimes the truth hurts, which is, my family was not exceptionally supportive of me wanting to be a musician as a child, of me wanting to be a singer. They would let me audition for things like American Idol and The Voice and, send in audition tapes for things. But I think secretly they kind of didn't want it to go anywhere. Um, I didn't really feel a lot of support in my music as a person, even when I was writing music, until university. Um, when I made those friends into music school, and literally, uh, I got asked a lot, like, why aren't you a music major? And I was like, I'm scared I'm gonna hate it.
Mm,
I was quite literally scared that if I studied music, I would end up never wanting to write a song again.
mhm,
And after doing self-study and working with, producers like yourself and friends who love to create instrumentals and, joining a cappella choir and stuff, I realized there is nothing that could make me hate music more than not doing it.
yeah. That's really interesting to hear, knowing some of the experiences that you've had, like going into this. Um, I think it's almost like the test that you had to go through in a way, which is what is the worst uh I hate to say it like that, but like what is, you know, it's almost like being thrown just the absolute toughest moments of making music and like what the worst situation could be before you actually get to a point of being able to make the EP that you've been wanting to make for, what do you say, 2016 was the oldest one?
Yeah, Anger was written in June of 2016.
Yeah.
I
So
actually literally have I have dates for every single song that I've ever written, completed or not.
yeah. So
I
to
always date it.
sorry. Yeah, so to like come here in 2025, almost 10 years later, and know that it took everything that you could possibly give it. Um, it's just that's really amazing. I'm really proud of you and I'm excited for this product to come out and just for more to make more art.
Yeah, I think especially concerning like anger, especially anger and believe it or not, Forgotten are the songs that I remembered without technically having to write them down.
Oh wow.
Forgotten was the very first song that you and I worked on, and it was really interesting because Forgotten, I never had those lyrics written down, but I had sang them to myself so much that it was ingrained in my person
Mm-hmm.
to remember it. Anger, I did have written down, but there were parts of it that I had changed, like when I had found the beat, the reference beat that you ended up recreating, because I thought I would have to expand parts of it. And so I was like, okay, well, let me add something here, add something there.
Mm-hmm.
So like I fell out of love with it. And then when you recreated the beat, I fell back in love with it.
Yeah. That's awesome
And
to hear that we were even able to do that.
yeah, but yeah, so it's not even just advice for myself, but
Mm-hmm.
go back and telling yourself something at the start of the process. Anybody who is starting their music process, you will find support in the place you least expect it.
Mm-hmm.
And make sure you don't let go of it. You will get scared, you will get frustrated, but you can be frustrated with something and love it till the end of your days. Honestly, I think with music, if you don't get frustrated with it a little bit, you're not trying hard enough.
Couldn't agree more. I think that's a perfect place to sort of end it off here. Um, Thank you so much for, letting me be a part of this project and this process. I feel quite grateful to have been a part of this. Um, and yeah, I'm really excited for everything to come out, for people to hear it, just see where this takes you. And Yeah. I'm very proud of you.
I'm I'm not to toot my own horn, but I'm proud of myself because I never thought I'd actually get to this point
Yeah.
in a musician's mindset. And so it was like a really big journey. And I'm really glad that you were there with me to push me forward and help me really solidify some of the things that I was looking for and everything. But quick plug is if anybody wants to actually get some digital goodies related to the album, I do have a Bandcamp open and it's in my bio where you guys can go there. You guys can pre-order the album and you guys will be able to get a physical album with some digital goodies. And I really hope that you look forward to those. And I have some more goodies planned in the future related to this album.
Awesome. That's so exciting. I'm really excited for you, and I'm excited to see everyone support you. And yeah, um, yeah. No, that sounds great. Thank you so much for chatting with me today.
Thanks for finding time to do this. I know that you have a busy schedule too, so
Of course. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for watching. We both really appreciate you.
and we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Bye.